On today's episode of That Mental Ginger Show, we are talking to comedian Sally Porter. Before we start, yes, the glasses are back on, my eyes busted yet again, but trust me, do not let that take away from the sheer joy and madness of this podcast. It was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to Sally, and I'm sure you will too. So let's get into it, shall we?
All right, troops.
Sally, pleasure having you on, my dear. How are you getting on?
I'm doing fine, apart from melting in this heat.
So how warm is it over there?
Well, today it's quite cool. It's 27 degrees.
Well, don't worry. That would be just a giant, like, white puddle with a bit of ginger on the top, just floating around.
And 2 weeks ago, it got up to 40.
Wow.
I didn't know Holland was tropical. It's been an absolute nightmare with this heat. Absolutely terrible.
Right, do you not have, like us, we don't have any air conditioning?
Well, we've got loads of fans, but yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's about it for us as well. The rest of it is just burn.
Yeah. I mean, normally it doesn't get to 40, but 30 is about the average for Holland. I mean, when I first came here, I was with my ex-husband then, and I said, look, I'm going to have to go back to Britain in the summer. This is too hot.
Yeah. So I just go home and just come to Coatbridge for 10 minutes and just get soaked and be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. It's really awful. I mean,
well, that'll lead into the origin story, which is always the way I start my shows, because the one thing we've all got in common is that we all have an origin. So, Sally, for my faithful followers, please tell us your origin story.
Well, I'm from London, as you can probably guess. I come from a mixed race background, which to me I thought has made me a better person.
No, definitely.
White man, white mum, black dad.
All
and when I was born in 1964, that wasn't the norm or the damn thing. So I found that dealing with racism, the best thing to do is really laugh at these stupid people. You know, because, I mean, as a kid, when you're growing up, you don't really understand. I mean, all kids get called names when you're little. Either like Ginge, Fatty Arbuckle, Specky Four Eyes, but there's not really any nastiness to it. It's only when you get old and go to senior school that things start to get a bit worse.
Yeah.
But I thought the best way, really, to deal with these fools, because that's all they are, really, is just make fun of them and make jokes. And I think it's, and also I'm Jewish as well on my mum's side, so throw that mix. I really had to have a sense of humour to actually especially get through my teenage years.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, and I do try to find some humour in most things, because that's the best way to get through it, I think. That's where it started. Comedy.
So did you find that the bullying kind of eased up when you started doing comedy, or was it just about the same, or was it just like you had something that you could fight back with?
Yeah, it was that really. I could fight back. I could make jokes about the Ku Klux Klan.
Hey.
With I mean, when I was growing up, it was in the 70s, and we had what was known as the National Front.
Right.
We've all got these idiot people,
and
I used to make jokes about them and reverse it. But also in my teenage years, one of the best things that got me through it was my music. I love two-tone, Madness, Specials, Bad Manners, Selector.
Yeah.
I could also identify with some of the singers like Pauline Black. A lot of people actually thought of her. She lived with me, and she's only a few years older. And when I had Crombie, of course I had no hair, didn't have any of this. I had a skinhead, Crombie, Dr. Martens. People, the ones that realised I was a girl, actually thought I was actually Pauline Black. very nice, you know. I know they think we all look, but we don't. But I did look a bit like her with the same clothes and stuff, so I can forgive people for that. But that made life so much better. We had good music when I was growing up, and that
That's,
really helped as well.
yeah, 70s definitely had the good music. What, you know, a bit of Bowie, Rolling Stones were in their prime at that point as well. What,
Yeah,
some just what Pink Floyd, like you had some really great bands like AC/DC as well. What a
yeah,
time. Well, and then you get to the 80s and it was just like, okay, abandon ship.
yeah. I think I think the early 80s, because it was at the end of the 70s was okay. Then it just went a bit downhill. I think the only good thing from the 80s was Frankie Goes to Hollywood,
Mm.
and they
You know,
made it, and then a few songs, but that was it really.
yeah, in my case, it was Guns N' Roses because that's like my all-time band. What, Guns N' Roses for me, but yeah, I could definitely see it. I think the best analogy that my brother ever gave for the 80s music was like we were just sitting watching VH1 at the time. It was a New Year special. My brother just kept going, "Isn't he gay now? Isn't he gay now? Isn't she gay now? What's it with all these gays?" I was like, Daniel, honestly, really,
Without
really.
long hair.
Mm. It was just like a sequence. So I think it started out with Wham and then it carried on, and he was just like,
Oh yeah, I've had
I
to
was like,
take my glasses because they're steaming up in the heat. I want to be able to see you.
yeah.
But no,
Although,
I agree. But I also used to like Adam and the Ants and OMD. All
yeah.
great, all great stuff. And comedy. I grew up. Now most of my family have got a wicked sense of humour.
Mm,
And I think also because they've had to get through racism as well, my white and my black family, you know.
yeah.
And we grew up with like the Carry On films.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Benny Hill,
Mm.
Two Ronnies, and comedy played a really big part. Yeah, and this and Carry On Up the Kye. But my best Carry On film is Carry On Screaming and
Mm.
Carry On, because
Very,
those
very
were,
good choices.
yeah, it was so funny. And one liner, and it always makes me laugh even now. Infamy, infamy. They've all got it in me. And his facial expressions and Adrian, you know, it was just hysterical, that bloke.
Yeah.
And Sid with his funny laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Well, it was,
grew up with some good people to watch,
yeah,
and it made life
definitely.
better. You need a good laugh. Laugh is the best medicine.
Mm. Well, it is the best medicine until your eye goes, and then I'm like, right, just give me some Motex, give me some eye drops. So, what made you come over to Holland?
Well, to be honest, after the Thatcher years, because it actually started off pretty good.
Mm,
It was the early 80s in Britain was the best times. Everybody had money, everybody had work, and then it just went downhill. And then I
mm,
hate to say it, Tony Blair took over, and I
mm,
thought, well, I don't vote Labour, but at least it's going to be better than the Tories. And he made it worse.
mm.
He actually bankrupted the country, and I actually wrote to him twice
Wow.
because, yeah, because of things that he did.
Mm,
And I actually did get a reply because the first one was, I mean, where I live, the pavements. I mean, even I've just come back from Edinburgh,
mm,
and I've noticed the pavements and the roads in Britain are terrible.
mm-hmm.
There's all potholes, and you know the pavements are all broken. Here, Holland, I mean, it gets on your nerves, but they redo the roads every couple of years, so the pavements are perfect, the roads are perfect,
Yeah.
and I notice it when I go back home. Well, at the time, where I lived it used to be mines, and they built a housing estate on top of it. So
Mm,
of course, the mines start moving, so do the pavements.
yeah.
And everyone was like falling over. I mean, you'd see these men come back from the pub drunk, and then they'd be
Mm,
like this. And say, oh, yeah, he's missed that one. Well, there he goes. And you just see men disappear down a hole, you know. And yeah, and it was one time I tripped, and then my foot disappeared down a hole. So it was just appeared, and
wow.
actually damaged the tendons in my legs
Ooh,
and my ankles.
mm,
And at the time, and I was so annoyed, but also where the private houses were, the pavements were perfect.
Mm.
But where the council estates were, where the working class live, and I'm not a right on lefty, I'm just being honest, but where the normal folk live, the pavements were terrible.
Yeah.
At the time, there was a slogan for people getting more politically correct then. There was a slogan to get more non-white people to join the armed forces. And there's a picture of like a Gurkha, there's a picture of a young black man, a white lady soldier, and there's all these, diversity. And it said, "These colours don't run." I've never forgot it. "These colours don't run. Join the British Army." So I wrote to Tony and said, "Well, mate, this colour can't even walk because your pavement is so terrible. I've injured myself." And I was telling him about it, how disappointed I was with the way things were going. And I got a letter back, and I'm not even going to bother with it. So I just and then I think it was about a year later. So it took about 2 or 3 years for me to recover from the last accident, falling down the pavements. And there was something about our military hospitals. He was going to join military hospitals with the National Health. Now, the National Health workers are not equipped for war injuries. They're equipped for broken arms and legs, of course, illnesses. They're not equipped for battle injuries. And the scars that obviously the trauma that goes with it with the soldiers. And they're going, "Oh, we're going to do this and do this." And well, this chap, he was a Scottish soldier, and he had to go to the Woolwich Military Hospital. He had an injury, I think, over the first Gulf War or one of the other wars that we had. And they looked after him, great, as they should. And then when it came to him getting released from hospital, they just put him outside the hospital. I said, "There you go." And he's going, "Well, what do I do now?" I said, "Oh, you can go home now." He said, "I live in Scotland." They just left him outside the hospital. And I'm watching this program. I was getting so annoyed. And I thought, well, I'm going to write to him again. So I did. And I thought exactly what I thought. Now, this bloke, Scottish or not, but the fact that he did live in Scotland and London's here, Scotland's there, and a man who's lost his legs has got to get from there to there after he's just been in battle for the country. It's not having it. So I wrote to him again. And when I got this stupid letter back, I put it in the toilet and I said, "You use that first before the toilet paper." So I'm really not a fan of Tony Blair because I remember what, and then I thought, right, I'm going. Then we had another war because of him, and I'm like, no, I'm done now. So I just packed my bags and I thought, I'll go to Spain. And at the time, I'd been working as a dominatrix for about 6 or 7 years.
Well, so you buried the lead there. You definitely buried the lead there. It was like, wrote Tony Blair, I was a dominatrix, but then I went to Spain and like, what? I mean, I know this because for anybody that doesn't know it, we did an open mic night together, and it was part of your routine, which was very funny. It was absolutely brilliant. So how did that kind of come about? That type of career choice, if you're comfortable talking about it. Because I know sometimes it's one thing making jokes about it, it's another thing actually talking about it. So you always have to be sure they're okay with it.
At all. It was because of this accident I had. I was on the 6, I couldn't walk. Because it really did damage my ankles and the tendons in my legs. And I was on sick pay for about nearly a year. And of course, by that time, you're nearly starving because, I know we have a welfare state and it's good that we have one, but it is a state. All this about old people are rich on the dole. No, they're not. People are really struggling. And the sickness benefit that I got after about nearly a year, I thought, I can't live on this anymore.
How much were you getting at the time, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm sorry?
How much were you getting on the sick at the time, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I think it was about £52. And this
Jeez.
was in 19, what was it, 1996, it was about £52. And
Jeez.
another thing Tony Blair did as well, which I haven't forgotten, when he
Mm.
came in, now this is a Labour government supposed to be the people, the
Mm-hmm.
first thing he did was stop disabled benefit. And everybody had to reapply, so those who generally needed it got it. Now, we
Mm.
had people testing, people with no arms and legs flinging themselves out the wheelchairs in front of 10 Downing Street because they'd had all these people. I mean, I did have legs, thankfully, but some
Mm.
people didn't. And they had their money stopped as well. Everybody. And you think,
Mm.
and when that got, because my money got stopped as well, and I had home help, and the ladies very kindly still came and did my shopping for me till we got it
Well.
sorted out. So this lady, that her job was home help, she was actually working for free for like 2 months before people got their money back because she didn't
Wow.
want to leave people with no food because I couldn't get to the shop.
Mm-hmm.
The most I could do was take my dog for a little walk around the block and come back in, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people don't realize that when like rupturing like ligaments is actually worse than breaking a bone. Because when I was doing a show once, I ruptured the ligaments all in my foot. Well, I just went over and doing a panel, went over badly into the audience, bang, down I went. And that's what they said to me at the time. They went, the good news is it's not broken. And I was like, all right. He's like, well, the bad news is your ligaments are ruptured and it's going to take a lot longer to heal if it even does. And I was like, but I'm still going to go on stage tonight. You do realize that, right? So did that. Really shouldn't have. But because I'd also been jumped at the time and I got my teeth knocked out by like 3 Neds, just went over and just waylaid into me. So I had that, and then I had my the ligaments rupture, and I'm like, I'm not having a good run, but I still finished it. So I was like, you ain't fucking beating me.
absolutely.
Mm.
Well, and this was all because of tripping over these pavements or your foot slides because you put your foot down and the pavement would just move. And after a couple of years of that, the last time I twisted my ankles, it just didn't get better.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, after a couple of this is my way of thinking. Also, I was really ill on sick pay. I thought, and this was with everything for help with me shopping. All that came out the 52 quid for me home help, and because I couldn't walk, sometimes I had to get taxis. That allowance was also in that £52. Now, after work, that ain't going to be stretching anywhere good, So I was sitting there one day, and it was literally happened like this. I was eating my beans on toast, looking at the dog because he had his pedigree chum. He was all right. And I thought, this is no good. Nothing wrong with beans on toast, but that's all I had. And I'm going to have to do something, And then I thought, what job can I do where I only have to stand or walk for a little while, earn loads of money, and I can keep my boots on because my boots were to support my ankles.
Yeah.
And I'll be a dominatrix. Now, that might not be normal way of thinking, but growing up, I was always a tomboy. And as a kid, I always had my little gang, not terrorising gang, your besties. And
you always had your pals about you. And they were just like your gang of pals.
Yeah. And they were all boys. I very rarely had a friend who was a girl growing up. And they all did what I told them to do. Now, I didn't know I was being dominant. I just knew they were me mates and they just did what I said.
Yeah.
Great. And every so often, each one of them would bring me a nice bag of sweets. I'd say, oh, I'll have those sweets this week. And the other one said, well, I'll get you. I'd say, well, I'll have those sweets. Now, of course, as I got older, it was money instead of sweets.
Yeah.
So to me, it was quite normal, to do that. I'll be a dominatrix. And I thought everybody had a dungeon. I thought it was, everybody did that. You can't really go down the job centre and think, oh, what jobs have you got for working in a dungeon? So I thought, well, how am I going to go about this? You can't get like a diploma in DSM or something. I think You know,
Yeah,
it doesn't
it's
matter.
a missed opportunity though. See if there's a way for you making any extra dough. You should start a course on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking,
Definitely. We're going to make this an equal opportunities channel. No matter what you do, we will get you some extra work, my dear. You can. Those who can't teach is what they say.
exactly. And I'm thinking, what am I going to, and I thought, why am I going to go about this? Then at the time we had this magazine called The Sport.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know if we've still got this newspaper. And I thought, well, I'll have a look in there. I don't really buy newspapers, but I'd heard about it. So
Hmm.
I bought a copy of that. Everybody looking at me, a woman buying The Sport. So, of course, there's not much sport in it, just a couple
Mm-hmm.
of pages of football. And then there's all these lists of establishments, shall we say, across
Mm.
Britain. I'm thinking, oh, I didn't know there was that many. It's, you know, I'm not going to judge. Men are
Yeah.
men, all got testosterone. And
Mm.
so I'm looking down at this, it was all massage, and I thought, I'm not that poor yet, thankfully, but it, you know, needs must. I thought, well, at least I know who I can ring up. And then
Mm.
I saw Dungeon. I thought, there you go. I think it was called Dungeon House of Pain. I thought, oh, that's for me. So I rung them up and I says, look, never done this before, blah, blah, blah. Told her.
Mm.
And I says, but I've always been like a dominant sort of person and I really think I'd be good at this. So she's chatting away. And I said, I've never done it before. I said, but I think it'd be something for me. So she says, okay, you can come down. This was in London and I was in Newcastle.
Mm.
Okay, you can come down. And she says, before you come, we talk. I said, how much am I going to earn? She said, well, you're not earning a lot. She said, you'll only earn about 40 or 50 quid. And I thought, well,
Well,
that's not bad
yeah.
for a day. She said, no, an hour. And I, excuse me? Is what? She says, yeah, we earn between 18 and 120 an hour. She said, you'll only earn half of that. And I'm like, I'm packing me bags now, love. I'm on my way. I'm thinking 40 or 50 quid a day.
Yeah.
Not a normal person, even that's a fortune. And
Mm.
this was, what, 96 when I started.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going. So that's what, okay, kids, grandparents this weekend, mummy's got a job. So I goes there and because I'm thinking, am I really doing this? I'm thinking, well, do you want to, but it's basically staff or I got the chance to do that. But it was
Mm.
as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I goes down, I was having a chat with her. She says, we're all here because of poverty. Not one woman or man, you know, men are in the sex industry as well. She says, not one woman or man comes here because they want to. It's all
Mm.
started with desperation for whatever reason, you know. And so she showed me this dungeon. And to me, I think I'll be kid in a candy shop, you know. Yeah, there's whips and chains, and I'm like, yay. And every toy you can think of,
Wow.
and something I've never even seen before. And I'm like, well, what's that for? What's that? And she says, well, there's a few clients I got this week that'll be happy for a trainee to come in. So I'm like, okay. So that was like 100 quid I earned on my first day. Now, I've not earned that in my life.
Wow. I
Stand
didn't
there,
realize
just
they
look
could
at
actually have like trainee days. But I mean, like I said, when I got jumped, well, I had two dental nurses, like training nurses, watching as that was happening. As I was getting my teeth, the remainders kind of yanked out and like temporaries put in, and they ran out to be sick. I would love to meet them and go, right, you want to hear another temp story? That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at this. I thought, because I used to work in factories,
Mm.
of course, that was another thing. We've gone also from the industrial age to the technological age. Plus, everything's industry in Britain. I mean, they've got no mines anymore. Not that we want everybody to go down a mine, but at least they were there. You
Yeah.
know, and factories, any sort of manufacturing, most of that's gone. So all that didn't help either. So it's not as if I could go and get a city down job in a factory because they were gone. You know? And so I'm looking at this money and I used to think, I used to have to work all week for this, and
Mm.
sometimes I learn this. And people wonder why women go into this industry.
Mm-hmm.
Money, pure and simple. And as long as you're safe. So she's taking me around this dungeon, and I'm like, yeah, I like this. This is cool. And it really started from there. And the first one I got, it's just that I've never seen before. I'd obviously heard of it. I was about 34, I think, at the time. I mean, I'd heard of it. And this man comes in. He was a really big man, very nice. A company director. It's all those that come in, you know. Yeah. He actually said to me, now this was X amount of years ago when I first started. He said, I'm responsible for 200 people's jobs, and I have a £5 million budget I have to deal with. He says, I've got a house I've got to maintain. I've got my kids in college that I've got to pay for. He says, obviously, I've got my wife to maintain. He says, and when I come here, I can forget all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, I thought most men went fishing or watched the football. But, you know.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it's each to their own, isn't it? It's an eye.
Yeah.
Hurting anybody, unless you want to be hurt, of course, and that's with consent.
Mm.
And he said, I'm just going to get changed. So I said, okay. So I said to this lady who run the place, I said, what's he getting changed into? I said, what's he changing for? She said, no, he's going to put on his French maid's outfit. And I'm like, okay. No, I'd never seen a bloke in a French maid's outfit before. And he was a big man.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why is he putting that on? She said, because he's going to do our cleaning. I said, what do you mean? She said, no, she said he dresses up in a French maid. He pretends to be a French maid. And he does all the cleaning.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, I said, so he's not going to pay? She said, yeah, he pays. I said, so he's paying to do our cleaning? She said, of course. That's what he wants. That's what he
Right.
for.
This is going to hurt my eye, but I really need to do this. Like the wide-eyed expression. What for that one? That's unreal. That hurt like a bitch, but it was worth it.
Poor love.
Oh man. I know there's a cheap version of a dominatrix. Open your eye. What? Just open your eye. Ow!
Yeah.
That'll be 200 quid.
Yeah. Don't do it for free. But yeah, so this bloke, and when he came out not a changing room, but because he got changed in the corner. Because one thing you do, so if any ladies listening thinking, oh, I'll try that, safety first. Nothing is worth your life or your safety. So when our clients are getting changed, they go in the corner and we're by the door. You never let the client get between you and the door. Yeah. So he was over there. I thought he's going to look like that. And I thought, well, okay, so each to their own. And of course, I'm still in awe of this room because to me it was heaven. All this and change and stuff. And so he stepped out and he had this French maid's outfit on, fishnet stockings and stilettos. He looked beautiful. I thought, bitch, look at that. He looks better than I'd look in it. So, yeah, so when people go about all these stupid transvestites, some of these transvestites look beautiful. He looked just as a woman as he did a man. And I thought, whoa. And then he started scrubbing the floors. I'm like, oh, off you go. Missed a bit, yeah. And afterwards, when he did all the cleanings, he was there for about 2 hours. Everything was spotless.
Wow.
And then he got a session of, S&M. You know, whipped and caned a bit and stuff like that. And he said, well, that was wonderful. He said, you did really well. And he gave me a tip. So in that session, I earned 70 quid.
Wow.
For like 2 hours. And I'm like, so I got there, because I was there for the weekend. So I thought, well, I've got 100 quid from the day before. I've now got 70 off this bloke, and I've still got another slave to come into. The first weekend I did Domination, I came home with over 200 quid.
Wow.
I know it's like a weekend, But it's like I've only actually done like 3 hours work, and I'm like, I can't believe it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to yourself, this is for me. Right, while I can do it, because there's also a sell by date.
Mm,
And I can pay for my son. I can get little extras. I
mm,
can actually buy myself some new clothes now. You know.
mm,
But me also being me, I'm not a greedy person. I used to
mm,
work all have a week off.
mm.
Work have a week off because it can seem a bit loopy being in a dungeon all the time.
Yeah,
But and some funny things really happened. And years later, I mean, my friends have been telling me for about 20 years, you've got to get on stage and tell these stories.
yeah,
Who's going to want to know about that? Who's going to
yeah,
hear about a dominatrix in a dungeon? And
yeah.
with
There'll be. It turned out to be a lot of people wanting to hear that.
Yeah, and it turned out because of COVID, because everyone, I mean, it was just awful this lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nightmare. I mean, I've had 4 different jobs in 2 years because of lockdown, because I used to work in hotels, so all got shut.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends, I got one lives in Amsterdam, and I got the other friends in England,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got more than one friend in Amsterdam, but one I used to ring regular because she's a single mum, and just make sure she was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to like, have a laugh, and my friend in England, and yeah, see how they were. We try and have a laugh, and I said, you really need to get back on stage because you're cheering us up. I didn't know I did that to my friends, and both of them said the same thing. Whenever you call us, we look forward to it because you cheer us up, and especially in these times. I said, and when this is over, because it will be, you need to get on stage and tell your stories about your dungeon because we all need cheering up. We're
Mm-hmm.
all fed up now being locked in. And in Holland, we had a curfew as well. We
Wow.
couldn't go after 9 o'clock
Yikes.
unless you was walking your dog. So people just borrowed other people's dogs, walking around and the
I,
dog at night.
I think I saw something about that, but I think it was over in Canada. They had a similar thing, and they got caught like walking like 4 or 5 different dogs just so they thought it was like an hour each per dog, so they could have like an extra 5 hours out.
Yeah, it was really awful.
Yeah.
We had to go through that, but of course, while I was doing that, and for the last couple of years, I've been trying to get back into writing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had lockdown, and then I saw Boom Chicago.
Yeah.
They were doing classes, and I thought, great. Then of course we had the lockdown, and they said people have their money back. And I thought, no, I'm going to do this.
Mm.
I'm going to be patient. It didn't cost a lot of money, about 150 quid or something for 4 3-hour sessions. So it wasn't a lot. And I thought, no, I really want to do this stand up. And my friend said, you really should be doing that. And my friend in England, she said, we've been telling you for 20 years to get up on the stage and tell all these stories about the dungeon. And yes, I did my classes, and yeah,
Brilliant.
got me stand up. And I was really surprised that people would want to hear about that because to me, it's just normal. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a job. I've had loads of jobs, and that was just one, but it paid a lot, of course, paid a lot more than the other.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just took off, really.
Yeah. Well, I'm really chuffed to see it though. It's Ali, because you just been at the Fringe, like you'd had a good run there. Your comedy is really good. Like the way that you speak and how you tell your comedy is really unique compared to like a lot of others. I think that's what also makes it really good. Well, I really like hearing it. You've got like a really, really good style about you. I just wish that the guys that would keep doing the online ones again so I could hear more about it. Because I'm like, I need to hear more about the dungeon. Never thought you'd hear. I never thought a kid for Coat Bridge would be like that. So tell me more about the dungeon.
Yeah, I've got some more bookings because I've tried to take August off so I can catch up on my housework and be at home a little bit more. But of course, then Edinburgh Fringe came up, and I managed to get a couple of spots. So of course, you don't turn down Edinburgh Fringe. I've got some gigs starting again September. So I'm going to do some news stories. And the
Yeah.
thing is, I did a set in Germany, and one of the audience came up to me after and had a little chat with me, and he was a really and was chatting away, and he said, "I don't know how much of it is true." I said, "I'll tell you what, mate, it's all true because I couldn't make this stuff up. This actually happens. So everything I say did actually happen."
Yeah.
I said, "I had the best job in the world."
Wow. So we are just starting to come up in time. So I'll ask you the final question to ask all my guests. If you could give one piece of advice to anybody struggling with mental health issues at this point in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
Go and get help. Nothing to be ashamed of. My father, unfortunately, he suffered from schizophrenia, and things were very different in his day.
Yeah.
And my ex-husband was bipolar. Mental illness is an illness like any other. And if you're, suffering from any mental health issues, you need to get medical attention and don't be ashamed. It's like any other illness. If you're ill, you go and see your doctor.
Definitely. Sally, it's been an absolute blast speaking to you and just getting to hear all about it again. Thank you so much for your time. It's been great.
Thank you for having me, my love. It's
No,
been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Well, we'll get you back on for some more dungeon stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So until next time, my faithful followers, I've been Andrew Durnan. This has been the brilliant Sally Porter. If there's any comedy gigs on that she's kicking about, get to them and give her all the support you can. So until next time, take care. Stay safe.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. Hope your eye gets better.
Yeah, me too. Bye bye.